You're going to be so proud of your country if I get in. You're going to be so proud of your president, and I don't care about that. But you are going to be so proud of your country because we're going to turn it around and we're going to start winning again. We're going to win so much. We're going to win at every level. We're going to win economically. We're going to win with the economy. We're going to win with military. We're going to win with health care and for our veterans. We're going to win with every single facet. We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning.
All right, so 6 months into his second...
Maybe he predicted the future. He may have predicted the future, because right now where I stand, whether you like him or you hate, well, actually, if you don't like him, you're not happy about a lot of the winning that is happening right now. Maybe you might say it's not winning, but like this has been a streak. This has definitely been a streak for Donald Trump. And I just want to react to this video by Gutfeld because he nails a lot of things and he says things in a way that only Gutfeld can.
In term, Trump hasn't just hit the ground running, he's pummeled it into submission. It's a big difference from the last president who hit the ground, then stayed there. We now have a president who rules with an iron fist, not from an iron lung. Remember when the southern border resembled the Boston Marathon with thousands sprinting across the finish line? Today, there's fewer illegal crossings than job postings for the Colbert Show.
Ouch. Now, one of the great things about the border is, if you recall, before the election, they were saying that the only way it could be fixed is if Republicans signed this particular bill. Within about 2 weeks, Trump had resolved the border without the bill being passed or anything being signed. It could have always been done. I think they definitely played that one wrong. I think the Democrats, because their position is never a position of principle, their position is really more of the opposite of whatever the other guy is doing. So the opposite of whatever Trump is doing is their position. So sometimes I think he just kind of does that troll thing where he'll say a thing just that they'll say the opposite. But when it came to the border, he's been saying it. And I think everybody with any sense knew and knows that you need a secure border if you have a country. You have to have a secure border. Now, legislatively, you need to decide who needs to come in and how they come in and etc. And I think a country as great as America needs to make sure that they have a system that does help people who are in need. However, got to take care of your people first, because the better your own people are doing, the more willing they will be and the more able they'll be to help other people.
And in May, blue-collar wage growth saw its largest increase in almost 60 years.
Did you hear that? The biggest increase in almost 60 years. And this is blue-collar jobs, right? So for all the people that say the Republicans don't like the middle class and they don't like the working class, it's the party of the rich, those statistics should change your mind. I don't think there's any party, either side, that is like, we are diametrically opposed to this particular group of people, except sometimes the really far left people just don't like rich people. But other than that, politicians need for everyone to be doing well. They need for as many people as possible to be doing well. And making sure that the middle class is doing well is always a big part of the conversation for any political party in any part of the world, because most of the people are going to fall or identify with that class. Rich people know they're rich, but middle class people and people that are just working hard every day, they know who they are and they identify with politicians or leaders that are trying to make their life better.
Plumbers haven't been this busy since a Taco Bell opened near Jerry Nadler's office. So how did that happen? Well, Trump also ushered in the largest deportation operation in history, which means people like me now must hire actual U.S. citizens to shave my back. Remember the tariffs the Dems claimed would crash the economy? They braked in over $100 billion.
Anytime like these economists, and my brother-in-law is an economist, and anytime these economists talk, I don't listen, because I always say, does anyone remember Miss Cleo? Like Miss Cleo was supposed to be able to tell the future. I always say an economist that's not worth millions is just like Miss Cleo. You just need to take it for entertainment. And the other thing to always keep in mind, especially with economists, they have a worldview. And if you look at what most economists were saying when Trump was talking about these tariffs, they were like, it's going to crash the economy just tomorrow. It's all going to happen tomorrow. It hasn't happened yet. I'm not saying it will never happen. I'm just saying they said definitively 100% without a doubt, it will 100% crash the economy. And just the fact that they were saying that, you know it couldn't be true because the economy is such a complex thing. But I would say, even if they felt that it might have an adverse impact on the economy, the tariffs, what they should have done is at very least been muted about it. But just to do this thing where they're talking and making people panic, it just reminds me of when we had COVID. Now, the first time I heard about COVID, I didn't really think too much about it. But I can tell you one thing for sure. The one thing I didn't think when I heard about this thing was I need to go buy some toilet paper. The only time I started thinking about that was when it was on the news and they were making everybody panic about toilet paper. It's the same thing with this tariff thing. If they really believed in America and wanted America to do well, they would do the exact same thing that was done when the Biden administration was in power, where anything that he said or anything that he did, they'd always at least speak about it in a positive way. So the tariffs have raked in all this money, $100 billion. You won't hear them talk about that because it doesn't fit their narrative. What they will say is, well, it hasn't happened yet, but it will happen. And it's just an unfair, it's an uneven narrative. And this is why people like Colbert and all of these people are panicking, because guess what? You can only say the sky is falling for so long. And when the sky doesn't fall and you actually start to see nice sunny skies, at some point, regardless of your political view, you may not admit it, but you will say, some of the stuff that he's doing is working, at least for now. I think we'll know in the midterm, but they're panicking about that now. And they're saying that it's going to be rigged and all that stuff. But it's just funny to me that as all of this good news comes out, where you have a stock market that's the highest it has ever been. They're not talking about the stock market now, but when he initially did the Liberation Day, then everyone was saying how horrible it is and the stock market's crashed. And anyone who knows anything about the stock market knows that it will correct itself.
Couple that with Doge's estimated savings of $190 billion, and we're halfway to paying off Kamala's bar tab. The stock market is higher than Snoop Dogg at Hempfest. Inflation is as dead as the meerkat on Maxine Waters' head. Trump's moving so fast his enemies in the media are eating his dust like a Roomba. DEI is DOA, the guy stopped 2 wars, and the Iranian nuke facilities are flatter than Dylan Mulvaney. At home, the U.S. is on track for its lowest murder rate on record. Things have been so good, even the media has to admit it. I wonder, can a lot happen in just 6 months?
A lot can happen in just 6 months. Today marks half a year.
Jake Tapper. Now, this man, I don't even understand how he still has a job. I don't understand how people take him seriously anymore. And this is how you know that the mainstream media is a farce. Because this man said things to defend the Biden administration when we could all see, we all knew what was happening. And it was sad to see an old person going through changes right in front of your eyes and people lying about it. No one should be happy about that. Even more so when it's the president of the United States, and his well-being and his health impacts everybody's life. So Jake Tapper was sitting there lying. Then he had the nerve, after Trump won, to write a book and tell us things that we already knew and make money off it. Like, how do we allow this type of thing to happen?
Year since President Trump took office again. And already his second term is shaping up to be even more consequential than his first.
There is little question that Trump is fulfilling a campaign promise. In a matter of months, migrant crossings have hit record lows. From sweeping changes in the federal government to mass deportation.
Ooh, they hate to say it. They hate to say it. And you know that he's definitely winning when they can no longer deny it. Even though they'll try to find some negative spin on whatever happens, at least they are through gritted teeth saying the thing that we all know, that there have been some wins for America. And I don't view it as wins for Trump. I view it as wins for the American people. Some people are struggling in any economy. You're going to have that. But there's been a lot of wins. Blue collar workers are finding jobs. As much as they say America is not respected on the world stage, I travel. I know that that is not true, other than people that are going to dislike Trump no matter what he does. No matter what he does, some people are going to dislike him, just like some people are going to like him. But on the national stage, if you're going to say that America is a laughing stock now, what about when we had a leader where the entire world could see that he was struggling, he was suffering from mental decline? How can you respect a leader that is struggling in that way? And how can you respect a country that will hold that person up knowing that they're struggling, knowing that they're lying? I would imagine that world leaders behind closed doors, after they met with Biden, the ones that got to, because they did try to keep him away from everybody, but the people that did meet with him, they knew. And how can you respect a country like that? Now, whether or not you agree with Trump and his mannerisms and his pettiness and all of that stuff, he's a daddy. He's a daddy. So like sometimes you need a government that's run by a daddy. And I think we're in that time where you need strong leadership. If you look at the UK leadership, Keir Starmer, like the UK government is falling apart simply because you don't have strong leadership. You don't have someone who says what they mean, whether or not you agree with the thing. So like one of the things that I respect about Bernie Sanders is he's been saying what he says since day dot, right? And he's consistent. The only thing that he took an L on was when Hillary Clinton robbed the election from him, or at least the nomination from him, and then he still backed them. That I don't give him any credit for. But as bad as his ideas are, they're consistently bad. He doesn't flip-flop. Whereas a lot of the leaders, they'll say whatever they need to say in order to get what they think will be voted.
And bombs dropped on Iran. The president promised changes, and there is no question he has made them.
It's a presidential moment that can't be denied. I only hope Jake will write a book about it 2 years too late. It's a far cry from earlier this year when Trump was an evil threat who would tank the economy.
They've reviewed Donald Trump's plan and have determined.
She's drunk, right? Like you can look. I felt. You know what? Actually, my view, and this is not a popular view, but it is my view. And you can put your comments in there if you don't agree. I don't think she actually wanted to be president. I don't think she actually wanted to be vice president beyond the idea of saying, oh, I can be vice president. Because to me, Kamala Harris comes across as socially awkward. And, there's all these rumors about the fact that she drinks, etc. And maybe that's why, if it is true, right? But she comes across as socially awkward. And I don't think a person that is socially awkward and someone who may struggle with the level of pressure that she would be under as the president of the United States, I don't think she really in her gut wanted it. And I think they just messed themselves up. They messed themselves up by not having a primary. If they had had a primary, then I think Trump still would have won. I think he would have still won, but I don't think Kamala was the right person. And I think most Democrats know that as well. And when they make this argument that she didn't win because she's a woman of color or because she's a woman or any of that, like I imagine if you had had a primary where you had, let's just say Michelle Obama was running, which I think Michelle Obama would have won if she had gone up against Trump. But let's just say you had a primary with Michelle Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Kamala Harris. So these are all women, 2 women of color. The weakest link would have been Kamala Harris. So the narrative that she was the best candidate ever and, she just knocked it out the park and the only reason why she lost was because she didn't have enough time. We all know it's a lie. She's socially awkward. She's not a strong communicator. She folds under pressure. Think about it. When she was on The View and she was asked a simple question, this was a layup. She was asked a simple question. She fumbled the ball. And then it was reframed that she could redeem herself, and she fumbled the ball again, right? So she was never a strong candidate. She should have never been the Democratic nominee. She should have never been vice president. Because if you think about it, and these are just the facts, right? Whether you want to accept them or not. When she was running for president, she had to drop out because not even the Democrats wanted her. So the argument that she's the best candidate when the Democrats didn't even want her for president, how can that be so? But she's here and I'm sorry, like if it's true that she does drink, this is probably one of those times.
He will weaken America's economy, he will ignite inflation, and he will bring on a recession by the middle of next year.
We're already seeing predictions that there will be shrinking growth and a recession this year.
Next time you all see me, Donald Trump will be president, and you may not see me.
Good. Good. You're not a funny person.
You nailed that prediction, Miss Cleo. And true, we're seeing plenty more Trump, and you'll be seeing a lot more of your therapist. You know, for months, the left created a fake apocalypse. They pretended we would have that Depression, Civil War, World War III, and the World Cup, all in the same year.
And remember, they said that first time around, if you recall, and it was an unknown entity at that time. When Trump won the first time, they predicted World War III. They predicted that the stock market would crash. They predicted all of these things. None of them happened. And I would say if it were not for COVID, Trump would have won again. However, it's great that he didn't. Because I think if he had done 2 consecutive terms, what would have happened? He wouldn't have been able to weed out the people that were consistently leaking and undermining him. He wouldn't have had that time to really just reflect and say, this is how I'm going to be the best president ever. I think, this is my theory, and you can say what you want, but this is my theory. I think Trump is ego-driven. However, that ego can be a good thing because I think he's driven in every fiber of his body, whether it's hubris, whether it's pride, whatever. He wants to be the best president ever. He wants to be the undisputed best president ever. And we win for that. So we win if it is pride, if it is whatever you want to call it. We win because of that. This is why he's moving so fast. He's moved fast this time because he realized last time he didn't understand politics. He didn't understand DC. He didn't understand how to get things done. But what he has on his side this time is he learned from the first administration. And also there's a baked in set of people that are going to hate him regardless. And as someone that's older now and someone that realizes that there's just some people that aren't going to like me. When you don't have the baggage of having to worry about people liking you, it is such a liberating thing. So he knows there's a percentage, whether it be 30, 40, whatever percentage of the US voters that are never going to vote for him. Like they said, he could cure cancer. He said it. He could cure cancer, and there are people that would still hate him because they'd be like, oh, he cured the wrong kind of cancer. He cured the cancer that only impacts white people, and therefore it was a racist thing, him curing cancer. So he knows that. And I think what happened in that time when they were going after him, it was do or die for him. And I think that focused his mind. And if you notice, his demeanor is a lot different now. Some people say it's partly because of that brush with death. I think anyone who comes that close to death and does not have the realization that there's something bigger than them, something is definitely wrong with them. But his demeanor, his rapport, the way that he's managing things now is a lot different than the first time around. And that's good for America. So even when Biden was president, I was rooting for him because you can't root against the president of the United States. It's just going to backfire on you because they'll be fine. You're the one that's going to suffer.
But those doomsday predictions just worked in our favor, causing even more people to self-deport, while sending Rosie O'Donnell to Ireland and Ella DeGeneres to London. And what the hell is up with Ellen? I understand moving to England, but do you have to turn into King Charles? My God. So things are getting better by the day. And true, you hear the same old pushback from the same old humpbacks. But it's also perfunctory. And why? Well, everyone knew change was needed. Even Dems saw their state suffering. Americans couldn't afford groceries. Our adversaries and allies didn't respect us. And you couldn't walk into a woman's locker room without tripping over a dick. But the Dems were helpless, cowed into submission by activists and special interest groups. They embraced wokeism, identity politics, gender ideology, climate alarmism. And
what happened to the climate, and all of the things that they were saying were going to happen? AOC was like, we're in an existential threat. And what happened to all of that? Right? So, like, if you truly believed that climate change was going to destroy all of us and that it is an existential threat, surely that would supersede the things and the fear of Trump. But it's all about power. It's all about power. It's about hanging on to power. It's about manipulating people. And as long as people don't think critically, and as long as people are tribal, they'll always win. But this whole thing about climate change and all of that has just kind of like disappeared into the ether all of a sudden, because now they see Trump as winning and they see that they're losing minorities. So they're losing black men. I think black women will hang on. Black women will hang on as long as they can. And I don't get it. I don't understand it. You know, I have daughters, I have a mom, I have sisters, and I just don't understand when you have black women who aren't thinking critically. Usually, and statistically, they're saying that most of the black women that are hanging on in that way, where they just won't open their eyes to the fact that they're being duped and being used, they're usually single black women. So what can happen a lot of times, you'll have a couple, and just like with me and my wife hears me talk about politics so much that I'm not saying that I changed her mind or even try to convince her, because I don't, but she hears an opposing view. And once you've heard that opposing view, maybe you get red pilled, or maybe you just end up being a critical thinker. Maybe you just say, you know what? The Republicans are bad. The Democrats are bad. There are only two parties. I must vote for one, but I'm going to vote based on policies. I'm not going to just continually vote for people that don't have my best interest in mind or are trying to keep me dependent on them, which is what, to me, the Democratic Party does for black people.
And they ignored the real issues. But Trump gave them an out. He came in and said, I'll be the villain if I can fix this country. I'll save women's sports. I'll cut the red tape and unleash American energy. I'll reshore jobs and offshore murderers. And of course, his opponents are going to scream about it, but they know that he was the remedy that they needed. And now they're in a woke hangover. Trump got the drugs out of the House, but it's still in their system. And the withdrawals suck, but they knew that it had to be done. The Dems needed outside help and intervention. Because after years of capitulating to the woke, their muscles of moral and civil order atrophied. And like a typical addict, they couldn't change even if they wanted to. So Trump saved them by doing for them what they couldn't do for themselves. So they can still hate him, but believe me, they are relieved. Because he got the woke monkey off their back. Now all they have to do is find something to replace it with. I suggest a spine.
I'm so interested to see what happens with The View going forward, because now that Colbert has lost his show, and I don't think there's as much of a market, but potentially the fewer of them that there are, they're not going to continue to cannibalize each other. Because when I watch The View, you see that you have these people that claim to be Republicans, like Alyssa Farron, whatever her name is, and Anna Navarro, and they say that they're Republicans, but I've never, and I'm being honest, I've never heard her express a Republican view. I've never heard her say anything that aligned with a conservative viewpoint. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with not being conservative or having a conservative viewpoint. But what I am saying, to sit on a show and say that you are a Republican, meanwhile you're saying, yeah, I'm close friends with Biden and every other Democratic leader that you can think of, just call yourself a Democrat. Like, just be upfront about it. So I think a lot of people hate watch The View because when you look at reaction videos, quite often it's people like myself that are reacting negatively, which means you kind of have to watch it to be able to prepare a reaction video. But I'm interested to see what ends up happening. I think what they need to do with The View is have like a proper conservative person on there. I'm not a fan of Candace Owens, but like a black female that can hold her own, so someone who knows the facts, someone who won't back down. Because Alyssa on The View, she'll say a thing, but she always has to acquiesce to the other people on The View, especially Sunny, who 9 times out of 10 doesn't know what she's really talking about. And she has such a condescending attitude. But I'm curious to see what will happen with The View. I'm really curious to see how the ratings will pan out over the next couple months as we lose more of these far left shows, and you have these you have fewer of them left, which means probably the viewership for the few that are left should go up. But what I'd like to see is more panel discussions on the left, where you have someone like Scott Jennings. As much as I don't like Abby Phillips, because it's clear that her views are very left-leaning and she always seems to side with that side of things, you have Scott Jennings, and it makes the show worth watching. So I give kudos to CNN for keeping Scott Jennings there. But I think if The View had a straight-up, hardcore conservative person, I may not agree with what they say all the time, but it would make the show more balanced. It would make it better to watch. It would be someone to combat Whoopi, who Whoopi is just like, to me, it's childish, this whole thing where she won't even say President Trump. I mean, that's the ultimate kid move, right? Even more so as someone who will criticize someone for being an election denier. So like him or dislike him, enough people voted for him to make him the president of the United States. He won the popular vote. He's the first Republican president to win the popular vote in decades. So respect the office, even if you don't respect the man. Even if you don't feel that the man respects the office, respect the office. And as you see Democrats more and more cursing and acting vile and saying that they need to be more Trump-like, it just shows you that it was never that they felt that his behavior was bad, because then they wouldn't revert to it. It was more that they felt like by saying this thing that they'd be able to hold on to power. It hasn't worked. It won't work. And I'm going to leave you with this, because I think Trump said it. He said, you're going to get sick of winning. And at this point, a lot of people who support Trump probably feel that he nailed it when he said this.
All right. Look, you're going to be so proud of your country if I get in. You're going to be so proud of your president, and I don't care about that. But you are going to be so proud of your country, because we're going to turn it around and we're going to start winning again. We're going to win so much. We're going to win at every level. We're going to win economically. We're going to win with the economy. We're going to win with military. We're going to win with healthcare and for our veterans. We're going to win with every single facet. We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more. We're going to win so much. I love you all.